Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Those are coming from all around the world. Thank you for this time that you've given to us and this opportunity for us to learn more about Salesforce and to learn more from our Salesforce MVP, Danielle. So, Today, our speaker will be talking about the journey to success in the Salesforce ecosystem. So Neil Wen, our co-leader, is actually not here today, so I'll be taking over. I'm Joey Chan. I'm the founder, principal consultant, and technical architect of Kajadi Solutions. Been with the Trailblazer community leader as for the past couple of years. Currently, number one rated developer in the App Exchange, and I've been with the Salesforce ecosystem for the past 12 years. So to introduce our speaker for today, Danielle is a principal director at Silverline with more than 15 years of experience designing, implementing Salesforce solutions. Danielle is responsible for enabling the insurance financial services vertical delivery team by ensuring best practices are followed. She lends her expertise and experience in insurance technology to share creative solutions and training. Her track record includes leading companies to successfully launching new technology products and channels, implementing strategic customer engagement initiatives, and creating optimized business operation processes to align with technology that help companies achieve their goals. Danielle is a senior consultant and SME in integrating cross-cloud functionality to help her clients increase customer engagement and achieve a 360 view of their customer. She has extensive experience in customer lifecycle management and customer engagement in both B2B and B2C channels. Danielle lends her talents to the global business community as an expert in Salesforce. She has received the honor of recognition as a Salesforce MVP in 2019 and 2020 and Marketing Champion in 2020. Danielle has served as a Salesforce Trailblazer community leader since 2008. She develops education sessions, speaks at many conferences, including Dreamforce, and serves on the active board for Florida Dreamin'. She currently started the Insurance Trailblazer Community Group, bringing together the constituents of the vertical to share their best practices. So let us now welcome Danielle.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And hello to everybody. I met with Joey a couple of weeks ago, actually, to consider if I was going to be coming here to talk to you guys or not. And he was very gracious to have me here today. Wanted to know just kind of a little bit about my background. And I'm just going to kind of make this a very fluid conversation. I would love for you guys to ask questions and to hear any challenges or struggles that you might have with as I kind of go through my journey itself and some of the critical components or pieces that I felt like were contributors to my success. And again, I just hope that you guys were willing to interact with me, and just if you have any questions, comments, want to share something, please feel free to kind of raise your hand, and we'll just consider this a fireside chat, although I did not have a fire, unfortunately, behind me. So awesome. So I want to just kind of start off with where, I guess, the beginning of my journey. I graduated school, and I had a communications and public relations degree. And I was living in Indianapolis at the time. I graduated from Purdue University in Lafayette, Indiana. And after I took that on, I got my first job out of school in Indianapolis at a public relations firm. It just so happened at that point in time, because that was in 2002, 2003, there was this really cool thing called ExactTarget, which was email and email marketing. And that it was a small company in Indianapolis at the time. And there was literally like barely anybody used email. And there definitely wasn't, like, the thought of mass email was a completely new situation for everybody. So I, being a young, scrappy just out of college, ready to get my career started person, came in and kind of learned the technology. And I ended up working with about 20 clients in total in about a year and a half, where I ran their marketing campaigns for them on ExactTarget, which, if you guys are not aware, ExactTarget was acquired several years later from Salesforce and is now affectionately called Marketing Cloud. So that's kind of where I started my career and how I got originally into the Salesforce ecosystem. From there, I worked there for about 3 years or so, going through helping multiple different types of people and multiple different types of industries, because I had so many different diverse clients, put together these marketing campaigns. At that point, it was not very segmented. It was a lot of batching and blasting. It was, the old school days of email sending from back in the day. And a couple of years down the road from there, I was lucky enough to run into an entrepreneur in town who had a tech business that he was actually starting up in the retail space for retailers specifically. So it was a point of sale software that they were looking for, and asked me to come on and do all of the marketing for him, marketing and communications for him. That was in 2007. At that time, they also came up to me and said, "Hey, we've got this really cool thing called Salesforce that we would like you to implement to help us manage all of our customers." And I was like, "Okay, well, what's that? What am I supposed to do with that?" And he's like, "Well, it manages our customers. It'll help us to figure out our sales activities and get it so that we can sell into more retailers at the time." And with my background and everything, I was like, "Well, I don't know anything about technology outside of Marketing Cloud and marketing emails. Is there training for me? Like, how do you want me to kind of get started with this? Like, where do I start?" And he was like, "Well, there isn't any training at this point in time for you. So I am just going to ask that, you kind of dig in and figure it out." There was no trailhead back then. There was very little to no content. If you decided that you needed training in some way, shape, or form, it was like a $10,000, week-long class that you had to fly out to San Francisco for. So I kind of just dug in. And one of the items that boss at the time told me was that I maybe should try and start a user group. And I was like, "Well, what on earth is a user group?" And he said, "Call Salesforce and see if there's any user groups. Maybe they have something you can model it with or whatever." So, because he knew of like one or two other users in the whole state of Indiana that were using Salesforce at the time. So I called Salesforce, and lo and behold, there were 4 other user groups at the time globally when I had called in. And they put me in touch with one that was fairly large. There was about 100 people or so in it that had been grown in the Minneapolis area, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so I got my first connection in the Salesforce ecosystem through that, and got some ins and outs about how I would kind of start a user group. So I officially started the 5th user group globally for Salesforce. I was very scrappy at that point in time, right? They didn't have any tools behind us. Now it's so cool to see how many groups are out there right now. I mean, there's literally hundreds of them, and the amount of training and support and materials and technology uses and everything that you get is just phenomenal. That Salesforce that it's grown to this level. When I started it, there was nothing there. I was using my own ExactTarget emails actually, because I had a lock and publish account that Marketing Cloud had given to us. So I was using that to send emails. I was using my internal Salesforce to kind of make a list of all of the people who was a user group. So we were using our own company Salesforce instance in order to track all of my user group people. And I had about 5 or 6 people who came consistently to talk about all things Salesforce. I had people drive from Chicago, from Cincinnati. And for those of you who don't know, that they were driving 2.5, 3 hours to come to an hour meeting with us, just to kind of talk about Salesforce a little bit. And that's really where I started to grow my knowledge on the platform itself. I also was lucky enough that the entrepreneur whose tech firm that I was working at the time was looking to kind of resell what was Exact Target Marketing Cloud at the time to some of his retailers. And so I was getting some kind of real hands-on experience at that point, working with the email platform and understanding how I would segment things out and engage people and use specific items within another system in order to send the right message at the right time, the right place. We kind of had the same thought when it came to inventory as well, as, if you use our inventory system and POS system, that it was going to do the same thing. And so I kind of took that and instead of batching and blasting, which was still what was happening at the time, evolved the marketing components or pieces into the segmentation pieces that we were doing. And I was lucky enough to work with some of the people who actually founded Exact Target Marketing Cloud back in the day. And they said, we should create a connector between Marketing Cloud and Salesforce. We totally see the need for it. You're obviously pushing and pulling information back and forth. So I actually was lucky enough that I got to be on the team at that point in time to beta test the connector between Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud. And I gave all sorts of feedback. It was very broken for a very long time. It worked in some regards for the first few sends or whatever, but there was email address was your subscriber key. There wasn't a concept of contact ID. They made a lot of evolvements to the Marketing Cloud piece because of this project and because of some of the challenges that myself and a couple of the other beta testers were facing as we were trying to send information out to Marketing Cloud people. As an example, if you have a retailer who owns several stores and you wanted to send specific information about a specific store, it would go to his email address. Well, if they had 2 stores and you were trying to send them different information about both of their stores, Marketing Cloud would actually dedupe everything. And so it would only send one email because it was using email as subscriber key. And it would, it was trying to protect you and make sure that it only sent one. So our communications were kind of all over the place. And it was a really cool experience to be able to, to go back and show, hey, the whole reason that the contact model in Marketing Cloud is in place is because of some of the feedback that I actually gave directly to the founders of Marketing Cloud, right? So that was really cool. And I guess one of the other key components to my success is all the connections that I, continue to grab with me as I go through my journey here to success in the ecosystem. I was at that company for about 7 years, and one of the tech firms that had Indy had its own little tech scene, if you will. They called it the Silicon Valley of the Midwest, and I was working with a few of the other groups or competitors, and I had one of them approach me. Because of all the things that I was doing within Salesforce and within the Marketing Cloud environment, because it had not been acquired quite yet, and asked if I would come and do consulting for them instead. So I went from complete novice to accidental admin. I was in that company for about 7 years. Again, being very scrappy and trying to get all of my connections out in place, just really trying to bust my booty for the greater good of my customers themselves. and making sure that, and I stand on this platform very firmly, is, having the right engagement with your customers. It's not just marketing to them, it's engaging them, and it's making sure that you are having the right communications, the right touch points, and collecting the right data throughout the entire process of their life cycle. And so I kind of went from there, and was finally brought in to be a consultant. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome for a while there. I don't know if you guys have taken any of the classes or anything on imposter syndrome, but you feel like you're not quite what you should be, maybe. And so I would definitely go encourage you, if you guys ever had that feeling. Um, so I started working through a couple of the different clients on that front, from a consulting perspective, in the actual Sales Cloud components. We were also hooking them up to Marketing Cloud. Even every now and then, we would hook them up to other systems, because a Marketing Cloud had not been fully acquired yet. And the client or the firm that I actually was consulting for, they ended up being very big technologists, who built Journey Builder. They built Audience Builder. They built finally the most recent connector that was an actual API. Before, it was batch and blast and just awful. But they made it so that it was a streaming API. And so I was really, really lucky to actually get to be in the trenches with all of the people in that consulting firm who were actually building it for ExactTarget. And it was during this time that the acquisition took place, between Marketing Cloud and Salesforce. And so I actually, we were so good at what we were doing from a Marketing Cloud standpoint, and we were one of the innovators, because our teams had actually built the technology. So we knew how to implement it really well. And we ended up subcontracting for Salesforce for a very long time. And I got exposure to, excuse me, to some amazing experiences that I probably would not have. Some multi-million dollar projects with implementing Marketing Cloud and Salesforce for multiple clients through that experience. And I did that for about 2.5, 3 years. While I was doing that, I was doing all sorts of different kinds of clients. I was doing a gaming client. I had a retailer that was gaming, and we did this big launch. And I remember it being very exciting. It was actually any of you who are gamers, it was the Overwatch campaign. And when that went live, and it was the first global delivery where there was over 1 million emails that were sent simultaneously for someone to actually go in and log in for something from a global launch perspective, to date in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud history at that point. So that was a really cool engagement that I got to be a part of. And I worked with global teams in APAC and EU, and even, I think, had a couple of people in a few people here in the United States for that one, but most of that was offshore, and that was a really neat experience to expand, above and beyond, not just Indiana at the time, but also completely out of the United States into it's a very different beast when you start going into global projects. So I cut my teeth on that one for a little bit, and I'm not going to lie, I think that one of the ways that I became successful is, I had a little bit of that imposter syndrome, but one of my favorite quotes that I got from my boss, a boss of mine, was, "You're not pushing hard enough. I need you to push so hard that you almost fall on your face. Or if you do fall on your face, I will be here to pick it up. But you need to push really hard. You need to be super innovative." And that's kind of always stuck with me. So knowing and understanding as I'm going through that, just the fact that I was able to kind of go way out of my comfort zone, not just a little out of my comfort zone, but like really out of my comfort zone, to points where I didn't even know what I was doing sometimes. And when you get to that place, I think that, part of this imposter syndrome that I've heard a lot of people say, is that they don't want to ask questions because they're afraid of what people will say. They're afraid, oh, well, if I don't know the answer to that, they won't want me on as an employee anymore, whatever. And I'll tell you another key point of my success. I've got communication and I've got connections. I would also say that my inquisitiveness and asking questions and not being afraid to say, I don't know. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that. Let me do some research and get back to you. And that is, especially from somebody who, during school and everything, I used to know most of the answers to everything on the tests, right? And not knowing an answer to something was something that was a little bit uncomforting to me. And asking for help was also a little scary and a little uncomforting for me. And so when I actually finally got into that concept, it's crazy, but guys, people want to help you. Like, if you don't understand something, if you want to know how to better solution something, if you want to know how somebody else is doing a particular solution or solving a particular use case, ask the community, ask the people in your user group, because people want to help. People want to share their knowledge. It actually makes them feel good to help you. So that's another piece of advice from a success standpoint, as I've been going through my career, is just not being afraid to ask questions and not being afraid to say, no, I don't know that. Now, you can't just say, no, I don't know, and you're done, right? You have to say, let me research it. Let me try and get that answer for you. Let me try and figure it out. And ask for that that little like leeway time as you were trying to understand what your specific answer is that you're trying to solve from a solution perspective. So let's see. At this point, I've had I was in the user group. I'd started that in 2008. And we've now kind of gone up about 10 years. I was able to pick up, and I always have to give him a shout out because he helped me so incredibly, to Mike Martin, who was another Salesforce MVP. If you guys don't know him, look him up. He's always also one of those people who are willing to help in every way possible. He was one of the core 5 people who were coming to that cafeteria back in the day when I started the user group for the first time. And he actually came on and started co-leading the group a few years into it. And we actually ended up growing the group to about, oh goodness, there was about 1,000 people in total who were part of the group. And we had consistently between 50 and 100 people who were coming on a regular basis, depending on what the topics were. We had speakers coming in. We were meeting on a regular basis. It was fantastic. So I had the user group thing going on. I loved that. I was consulting now with all these different different clients. So I had a ton of experience there. I was continuing to grow all of my connections, really working, like if I went to Dreamforce as an example, I was trying to meet as many people as I could at Dreamforce. There's a lot of people, and there's different ways that you can kind of strategize if you go to Dreamforce, if you guys ever have the chance to do it. But I I spent the majority of my time networking at Dreamforce, as opposed to going to sessions and things, because the sessions are recorded, so I can listen to them when I come home. And I mean, there's only so many t-shirts and so much swag that you can get, right? So I would spend most of my time networking and seeking out people who I wanted to get to know, and asking them if they wanted to have coffee with me while we were there, or asking if they wanted to meet outside one of the sessions that I thought that they were going to. I also took a lot of my clients and took them into specific sessions, or recommended things to them for them to do, which again, boosted confidence for them in me, because I was then, continuing to be an expert and a knowledge sharer. And again, people like to share things, right? I love to share things. I would hope that all of you guys would love to share things. Obviously, Joey is here, and the whole reason that he started this user group is because he wants to share his knowledge and get the group connected. So it's just so important. Let's see. So from there, I was at that consulting firm for about 5 years in total, both subcontracting for Salesforce, and then we had a few of our own clients as well. And I finally decided, I had somebody approach me and ask if I wanted to come move to another consulting firm. I'm not typically a job hopper, if you will. I've got to have a really good reason as to why I would want to go to another company. And the current company that I'm with now, Silverline, I had a really good friend who I had worked with in the other tech uh, firm that I was at prior to coming into the consulting world. And she was like, "This is a really great opportunity. I think that you should come find this little company out." And so about 4 years ago, I joined Silver. 3 or 4 years ago, I joined Silverline. One of the reasons that I was so excited about them is at the time they were one of the only consulting firms that had been invested by Salesforce. We actually have Salesforce people sitting on our board. So we get insights into roadmaps, and we get insights into um, product owners and things like that if I needed help with it. As I was going through kind of my onboarding phase there, I had, between the subcontracting at the one firm, and then coming into Silverline, which they focus a lot on financial services and healthcare. I kind of ended up just happenstance into a lot of insurance groups. And so I was helping very large insurance companies implement Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, a little bit of Pardot every now and then, and just kind of helping them interact with their policyholders, interacting with their brokers and their agents. And I ended up kind of fast forward for a couple of years, decided that I was going to make a career move. I actually had one of the other consultants who lived in Florida at the time. He had asked if I would be interested in starting up a Dreamin' event with him. And it was Shane Hayes. He was the one who originally founded Florida Dreamin'. And I was living in Indiana at the time. We just knew each other from work. And he asked, because of my knowledge and expertise and also my event planning skills and things, if I'd be interested in starting a Dreamin' event. So I joined and we did our first Florida Dreamin' event a couple of years ago. And it was a huge success. We had several hundred people who showed up in Orlando. And at that time, I flew down to Orlando and went through the event itself, and was able to connect with a ton of people. And I said, I really want to, I really want to make a change in life in general. And they actually, that trip and those particular users are the ones that convinced me to move to Florida, and convinced me to move to Tampa, specifically in Florida. So I owe my house, my move, my beach life, everything these days, because I moved here about 2 years ago, to that Florida Dreamin' Committee and to all of the users there who convinced me to come down. And at that point, when I left Indianapolis and came down here, I obviously couldn't continue on in the Indianapolis group, because those are supposed to be regional events. And while I still stay connected to them, and it's obviously from all the people that are on this, there are the ability to join virtually and travel up there every now and then. So the wonderful thing about things being virtually is I get to kind of see some old friends and things. But I finally passed my torch on to Mike, who was running it with me, and decided to come down to Indianapolis, or to Tampa. And at that time, I had a insurance client who was looking to start a insurance group with Salesforce and had reached out. There was an old insurance group that had been kind of going on, but had lost any and all power. No one had really done anything with it for a few years. And so my client and I actually kind of took the insurance group head on. And so now I run the insurance group globally for Salesforce. And I love it. It's been fantastic. So that kind of comes up to present day. And I continue to, I think, be successful because of the connections and the communications. My MVP, this has been a little interesting journey, I guess, if you will. So I became an MVP in 2019 and again, renewed in 2020. I had been chasing MVP for a number of years, actually. I was very jealous. My my co-leader in Indianapolis, Mike Martin, had been an MVP multiple times. The job that he had actually lended itself to traveling around the country and talking about Salesforce. So he was automatically being an MVP. I mean, that was his job, right? So of course he was going to end up with MVP on top of it. And I had chased it and thought, I was putting all of the right, dotting all the right I's and crossing all the right T's and putting the right things to do in the right bucket. And I just, every year that I got nominated, I just ended up not getting it. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, what are all these other people doing that I'm not doing? And it wasn't until I kind of stopped chasing it or trying, and really realized, with Florida Dreamin' and with my passing of the torch from the Indianapolis group and running that for, goodness, 15 years, to finally taking on a global group and bringing in the global insurance community and helping Salesforce, kind of refine their vision on what FSC looks like and what the insurance world looks like, and the different use cases that are in and around there. And I've gotten over the past year into Velocity as well. If you guys haven't heard of Velocity, I would definitely check it out. It is going to be a very integral part into the Salesforce platform here in the next year or so, as they kind of take some of the tool sets and components that they built on the Salesforce platform, because it's not just it's not a solution. It legit is a tool set, and it's so cool. And how all of that has kind of evolved. It wasn't until I, started focusing on those items that I ended up getting MVP. And I know some of the people in the community at Salesforce, the actual people who run the community itself. And it's just crazy when you take the thought of, what does my success look like, and instead say, well, what does the success look like for all the people around me, and how am I helping those people, is kind of how I ended up with the MVP. So yeah, that's kind of my story. Obviously the Marketing Champion program, which has even since I've been put into it, has evolved a little bit. I got that because of my long time experience in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud ExactTarget platform from back in the day, and how I continue to be an evangelist for just the engagement of your consumers and prospects overall. And yeah, so that's kind of my story and my journey, and kind of some of the key components that I had mentioned throughout the journey of why I feel like I was successful, and some of the pitfalls that I had, and some of the help that I had along the way. I don't know. Do you guys have any questions? What are you thinking?
I really like how you mentioned 3 points, right? Communication, connections, and inquisitiveness, right? Do you have any specific recommendations, at least within the ecosystem, on how folks can actually develop these skills?
From a communication standpoint, this is actually kind of crazy, but I was I was a waitress for a while, or bartender, I guess. As I was going through school to pay from different schools, debt and things like that. And I use a lot of those skill sets to actually talk to my clients, coworkers, etc. think about it. If you were sitting there as a customer waiting for your food and the kitchen's taking forever, do you want to continue to sit there and wait for all of your food, or do you want somebody to come and tell you where it is, right? Like, do you want somebody to interact with you? I found that a lot of people don't necessarily want to have that communication and open up that communication with their customers or with their coworkers until a task or a project or something is like completed, perfect and done. And I think that is one of the key skills that has made me successful throughout it, is the ability to not just, open communication and make connections with people, but actually have real life crucial conversations with those people. And that's actually a wonderful book. So there's Crucial Conversations is a book that I was given when I actually started my consulting world, and having those conversations, it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. Telling somebody that you might be late on a project, or you don't necessarily understand how to do something and you need to go ask for more help, or you need to have some more time to think of a solution, or whatever the case may be, is I think incredibly important when you are looking through just expectation setting of whoever it is that you're working with. And if I know that something is coming in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, like, give me another beer and I'm good to go, right? But if I don't know, and I'm just sitting there in limbo, then I'm anxious, and then I'm angry, and then that causes a lot of friction between us. And so I would just say opening up the communication lines, and taking real life experiences that you have, such as, being a waitress, and being able to apply that to your everyday life, is I guess one of the things that I would recommend.
Yep. I really like how a lot of the life experiences that you've had, especially before you got into Salesforce, really added up in terms of where you are, right? In terms of the communication skills and all. Especially with the pandemic, I mean, there are definitely challenges with being able to communicate with each other in person, right? I mean, we're technically not allowed, at least here in the Philippines. One of the ways that I would actually recommend for our audience is really being able to join the different groups around the world, right? You've joined this. I mean, there's really nothing stopping anyone from actually joining all of the different groups happening around the world, right? I'll actually post a link later on regarding a calendar wherein you could find all of the different events happening over the next few months. Basically, it's all of the user groups for the whole world, in a sense, all in one calendar. So that means you could actually just pick and choose whichever group you want to join. And then part of that is, of course, building connections, right? It's really hard to meet in person right now, but at the same time, there's nothing stopping us from reaching out to folks and really understanding what their journey is, right? So part of why we're also featuring the different MVPs, and same with Danielle, is basically to inspire folks. Hey, how was the journey of a Salesforce MVP? How did she become an MVP? And I'm sure there's quite a lot of folks here also aspiring to be one, right? But what are the different things that an MVP does in order to get there, right? Of course, it's basically the Salesforce MVP title should actually just be a cherry on top. It's really all about sharing, as Danielle mentioned, right? In terms of sharing both your expertise, your time, and how you can actually help other pull them up in terms of their careers and all. So, any questions so far? Let me just quickly check again. Let's see.
Hey, Joey, I have a question to Danielle.
Yes.
Hi, Danielle. This is Glenn. I'm also currently working as a ISV partner of Salesforce. So I have a question because some of the guys here are actually kind of new to Salesforce or still learning with Salesforce. I just want to know, how did you manage your time from being a full-time employee to learning Salesforce? Because I know in the first place, you're not really into Salesforce, you're into Exact Target and kind of learning with regard to Salesforce. How did you manage your time? And then is there any instances where you struggled a lot when it comes to learning Salesforce? How did you overcome about it? And yeah, if you can give us, or if you can give these guys tips on how they can learn Salesforce in such a way that they can manage their work as well as learning Salesforce. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie. There's been a lot of nights and weekends that I've spent learning Salesforce. When I'm traveling, I am most of the time taking my phone out, and instead of watching a movie, I am looking at a video or reading documentation on new features and functionality that are coming out. Or not to say that I don't have any fun. I do have some sometimes, I promise, guys. But when I'm going through learning that experience, I did a lot of lunches with people. In a pandemic, a little bit harder, but to really know and understand how specific components or pieces worked, I reached out to people in the community a lot. And I think that, there's a balance between, obviously you have your 40-hour work week. Sometimes it's 40. I personally have a 50-hour work week. I don't know about how you guys all work, but it's definitely more than 40 most of the time. And so I have to actually carve out some specific time. So maybe you just say, every Saturday morning you're going to do this. Or if you've got kids and stuff going on at home, maybe you say Tuesday evenings, I'm going to spend, every Tuesday evening for an hour going through Trailhead. And I'll tell you, Trailhead is amazing. I really wish that I would have had something like that back in the day when I started learning it. It is the ability to play and go into the sandbox is fantastic. But the fact that they give you like scenarios, like real life business scenarios that you have to then go and build is pretty fantastic. And I do that all the time. I still am using that as one of my ways to know and understand and learn all of the new features and functionality and pieces that are coming out of it. I would also probably recommend, as you're managing, like trying to figure out what in the Salesforce ecosystem you want. Not everybody can know everything, right? It's just not possible for us to be the expert on every single thing. So I would find a specific component or piece that really, really interests you and get really good at it. I know some of the other MVPs that I've talked to, one of them, as an example, she's a senior admin at one of the wealth management insurance companies. And man, she is amazing at flows, and she does blogs on flows, and she does videos on building flows. And every single time they've got new things that come out in release notes, she talks about flows. She knows flows inside and out really, really well. Now, does she know how Marketing Cloud and the connector works with each other? No. Does she know, so anyway, that it's just kind of my point is, because it's so big, like, do you want to know sales and the Sales Cloud really, really well? Do you want to know customer service really, really well? Do you want to understand how the customer console and the dialers and all of those kinds of things will kind of increase KPIs and what KPIs people need to be looking through? Do you want to kind of expand and be a coder in some way, shape, or form? I admit, and this was actually something that I've struggled with a little over, and I can't be afraid to ask for help on, is I'm not a coder, right? Like, I don't code. I don't HTML code. I don't JSON code. And so that has been a little bit scary. Now, if you give me a SQL code and or SQL query and tell me to go and like decipher it, like I can get through it, but I struggle. It's not something that my brain inherently kind of goes after. And, that's something that I'm working on over time. But you also have to decide, do I want to be a coder, or do I want to be a business person, or do I want to, like, what avenue do you want to be in the Salesforce world? Because again, you can't be everything to everything. I hope that kind of helps your question or answer your questions a little.
You actually really like how it actually ties up with the imposter syndrome. I guess there's that feeling where you're expected somehow that that you have to know really a lot of things about Salesforce and all of different other products that they have, right? But I mean, during the start of my career, it really felt like you could know a lot about Salesforce, right? It felt like wait, 10 years ago, you could learn the whole platform, right? But fast forward today, I mean, it's almost impossible for you to keep up with all of the different acquisitions and all of the different product line that they offer, right? So with MuleSoft, with Tableau, with all of those product lines, right? So
Yeah.
it's really about, as she mentioned, it's really the focus and finding the specific niche that you'd like to focus on. And as she mentioned, it's really being really good at it to the point that you're the expert in it. And once you are, of course, part of the journey is being able to share, because what's the point of hoarding all of that knowledge, right? If nobody is benefiting from it. So part of it is how you can actually share the information, whether it's through blog posts, whether it's through creating articles or videos, right?
Mm-hmm. For
So
sure.
yeah, let's see. We have another questions here. Sorry, from Tony. So it's amazing to hear that you run a user group for 15 years. What are some of the activities that help sustain the interest of the members in the user group? And it's specific, yeah.
Good question. Goodness. So in a non-pandemic world, let's talk through that first.
Mhm.
I think that we did a lot of in-person events, you know, and eventually, hopefully, God and everything willing, that we'll get back to that at some point when all these vaccinations come about.
Mhm.
So I think that having that personal connection, so finding a time where we did a lot of lunch and learns. So it was the ability for people to kind of leave work or and I even do lunch and learns now in the virtual world as well, where I'll have, you know, a sponsor or a speaker come in and talk through a specific topic and serve lunch with it. Or if even if we've done it virtually, we've had some very generous people who've actually gone through and said that they would give like $10 Uber Eats or whatever it is for all of the attendees so that they can get a lunch from that as well. Some of the other like interactive, we try and do a lot of interactive games. So trivia, we've done Salesforce bingo. Let's see. I try really hard to get actual users who are solving real world problems to come in and talk. So just like I'm gonna pick on some names that I see in here, but Robert or Marianne or Christian, like I will, as a user group or as a user leader, will go to those people and say, hey, what's your problem right now? Like, what solution are you trying to fix? Or what cool thing have you done that you could come and share with the group? Because I feel like, again, the knowledge share, that's really why most people are here, right? No one came in, and I think that it's like 8 or 9 o'clock at night for you guys, right? So
Correct.
nobody decided to get on this video at 9 o'clock tonight because they didn't want to have some sort of knowledge share. And so I think that that's been a big component of it, is getting actual users to come in and share. I've also been really lucky in finding people who, you know, like that MVP that I was talking about on flows, you know, finding those people, like going through the MVP group or going through the Salesforce blogs, going through and talking to some of the product owners, or consultants, people. There's tons of information out there that you can reach out to somebody, and 99% of the time, those people are going to want to come and share with you that whatever expertise that they have. And I poll my groups a lot to determine what is of interest at the time. And so I think that we do that probably 2 times a year. Let's see, what are some of the other activities that we've done? I've had App Exchange like demos, where you know, we actually do voting. You have 2 or 3 people who, you know, do the App Exchange demo, and there's an actual name for it that's totally escaping me right now, but they get 2 or 3 minutes to demo jam. That's what it is. We've done quite a few of those with App Exchange partners or people with solutions, and then the group gets to vote on what's the coolest solution. So yeah.
Great. let's see. Any other questions you would like to pitch in? It's actually a good idea, though. Definitely learning a lot in terms of the user group part, right? That's actually one of the things that I've been doing recently is basically trying to join other groups just to see how they operate, right? And there's nothing really stopping us, hey, and meeting the other group leaders too, right? And being able to collaborate in terms of how we can share best practices, how we can keep people engaged, right? Let's see. Any other questions? I actually have one last one. So it's actually regarding imposter syndrome. I'm pretty sure there's almost everyone probably encountered this at some point in their lives. Um, do you have any specific recommendations? I know you mentioned a book, right, regarding this one, and in terms of being able to overcome that.
So I think that one of the things that I would recommend, I get a lot of, as an example, I get a lot of requests on LinkedIn to, just be connected on LinkedIn, which is fine. I love LinkedIn, but I would suggest if you're looking to stand out and really make a connection with somebody, to not just connect with them, but ask to actually meet with them. Ask to have a 20-minute, just because you want to meet with somebody doesn't mean that it has to be for an hour, right? You can say, hey, do you have time for a 15-minute coffee break just to meet me and say hello? And I know that everyone's busy with clients, and I mean, gross, but I have to put time on my calendar to, to remember to eat and get water and, go to the restroom. It's pretty crazy the way that calendars fill up so quickly. But I also could most likely find 15 minutes of my day. And that actually makes the connection where I know who you are. I can understand, what you're looking for. I can understand, how it is that we might be able to help each other, right? Like, if people are reaching out to me, it's not, I don't want to assume that it's just because they want my help, right? They are probably, I might be able to benefit from them too. And so I think that is definitely something that I would recommend, is as you're connecting with people, that you don't just connect with them, but find some people who you are interested, like genuinely getting a connection with. And then when you talk to them, just ask if they want to meet for a cup of coffee, or, whatever the beverage of choice is, and go over a Zoom really quick. And if you have somebody that's close to you, don't be afraid to reach out to them and ask. I don't know if people are actually allowed to socially distance and get together right now. But, it's having that human interaction, and that really solidifies the connection, in my opinion. So.
So we have a question here from Arnie. She's actually from the academe, so basically a university professor in a sense. So her question is, how can you connect with like the academe though? Like, any recommendations? I'm trying to understand the context here, but it seems like how we can connect, like, for example, Salesforce with the universities, right? Any recommendations?
When you say connect with the university, I guess, are you meaning connect to like grow the population there, or?
I see. Hold on. Let's just reconnect. I'm actually checking the chats here. So
Yeah, no worries. So if you think through the university specific connection, if the Salesforce community actually has groups that go out into the community itself. They have Pathfinders, which is really cool, that you can actually apply to be a part of that program. And that is for not just college students, but people who are looking to just kind of change careers. I had one of the women who were in my group. She was actually some sort of, I don't want to say bus driver, but she drove some sort of vehicle and was a delivery service of some sort, and ended up taking on the Pathfinder to learn Salesforce. She applied for it and went through kind of the academy is what they call it. So they do have programs like that out there. They also have student groups that can get started. So if you're looking to start a student group, you know, one of the, and I think that we had mentioned this actually in my presentation description, but Salesforce jobs are like one of the top 5 jobs on Indeed, right? People are looking for a lot of Salesforce help. And so people who know and understand how to be an admin, how to actually administer and solve the complex business problems that they've got going on with Salesforce itself. So, you know, starting those groups and kind of helping people as they go through and kind of bringing up the talent in those from a university perspective and student perspective is definitely a way that you could connect them as well. I'm not sure if that answered the connection question or not, or if there was a different type of connection she was trying to go after, but.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I know there are definitely programs specifically for universities if they'd like to teach Salesforce, right? So there's that aspect, and also, of course, as you mentioned, student groups for universities. So that's definitely something that to research in. So I guess one last thing. I know you're leading the Salesforce, the vertical for the Salesforce insurance. So how do you see the vertical growing? No, I'm just not sure if it's something specific to the US, but I do know actually there are a couple of companies, at least locally and within the region, that's actually using Salesforce for their insurance. Do you have any recommendation in terms of how to get involved there in terms of the insurance space?
So there is, if you go to Trailhead, there is some trails specifically to Financial Services Cloud. And there's also specific ones to insurance as well. And so I would recommend taking both of those if you're looking to get involved. Also, you know, within the recent acquisition of Velocity, Velocity actually got rebranded and they're calling it Salesforce Industries. And like everybody's title now is no longer Velocity, it's called Salesforce Industries. And they are currently in the works of aligning whether it be Health Cloud or Financial Services Cloud with the components and solutions for Velocity. So Velocity is a very cool tool. It has they call it the Velocity Process Library, where there are hundreds of data packs and processes available for you to download that include the solution overview for what you're looking to accomplish in that specific vertical. So in insurance, and it's not just in insurance, it could be in health insurance, it could be Medicare, it could be, and that Medicare is specific to the United States. They have, and I know that they're working, I don't know all the details around it, but I do know that they are working to kind of pull Velocity so that it is no longer its standalone, and it will be actually brought into FSC and Health Cloud as some of those tool sets. So, you know, very similar. And again, you know, Silverline, which is the company that I'm currently with, we have board members from Salesforce who sit on our board. And one of the ways that we have been so successful as a consulting firm is because we specialize in a specific industry. So I can come in and tell you that I'm the expert and I know what all the other insurance groups are doing in the Salesforce ecosystem. I know how they're solving their problems because I do it over and over again, right? It's almost like, I don't want to say rinse and repeat, but it's close to a rinse and repeat. And I think that Salesforce is going to start taking that same approach from a verticalization standpoint. So if you're interested in getting involved in one of the industries specifically, maybe you have a background in financial services or healthcare or, you know, whatever that may be. Having the ability to have some industry knowledge, knowing and understanding what the business is on that end, and then also knowing what the tech is too, is pretty fantastic. So I would definitely consider that. And again, Trailhead has everything. So you can go find Health Cloud, you can go find Financial Services Cloud, and you can find specific things to specific industries. Like, how do I do banking and lending? How do I do mortgages? How do I do wealth management? How do I do insurance? How do I do patient care? It's kind of all out there in the Trailhead community.
Yeah. So I think that's it for the questions. I really appreciate having you here, though. Thank you for taking the time for the group and sharing a lot of your experiences and knowledge. And really, thank you for this opportunity to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you know, if anyone wants to reach out on LinkedIn, I am out there and would be happy to connect with you and even maybe have some coffee with you one-on-one as well.
Sounds good. Yeah. Let's see how we can make that happen then. All right. So thank you, Danielle. So up next, actually, we'll just be raffling off. We actually have 6 certification vouchers to give away. So most people will actually have a really good chance of getting at least one. Thank you, Danielle. I mean, it's up to you if you want to stay on. So I'll stop recording and